You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
It's a very personal, very important thing. Hell, it's a family motto. Are you ready, Jerry?
I'm ready.
Just want to make sure you're ready, brother. Here it is. Show me the money.
Looking good, but I think I'm taking too long.
Yo!
Spot for a Glock. I took a loss over floss, but still got a knock.
Money! Jerry! Does that make you feel good just to say that? Say it with me one time, Jerry.
Show you the money.
Oh, no, you can do better than that, Jerry. I want you to say it with meaning, brother. Hey, I got Bob Sugar on the other line. I better hear you say it.
No. Show you the money.
Not show you. Show me the money.
Show me the money.
Yeah! Louder!
Show me the money.
That's it, brother, but you got to yell that shit. Show me the money. I need to feel you, Jerry. Show me the money. Jerry, you better yell. Show me the money!
Hey everybody, it's time to show you the money. And part of getting the money is having a perfect demo. And we've all sat through other people's demos, and the demo is a critical element of the sales process. We have to prove how our product or service works. It's the evidence, it's the social proof, it's the hands-on. And this is so critical, and to do it right really takes a talent, because sometimes it's separated to somebody else. Sometimes you do your own, sometimes you have someone else do it. Now, this episode was inspired by our friends over at Gong.io. Chris Orlob did a great research paper called The 9 Elements of Deal Closing Sales Demos. So what we're going to do is not so much go through that, because he's written that up, and you can go check it out either on Gong.io/Brian, and just check out the blog, register, you get the best deals possible. Amazing capabilities. And Chad's joining me today, and we're going to talk about this. But you can also just go to Chris Orlob's LinkedIn Pulse post and just look for it, 9 Elements of Deal Closing Demos. And what we're going to talk about today is kind of our experience and what's worked for us, and kind of just through a conversation instead of just reading through a blog post. The blog post is fantastic. It was based off of almost 70,000 demos. And what they learned, all scientific, all analytical. But what we're going to do is anecdotally talk about what's worked over our collective experiences, which is a lot. But these elements are critical. But before we get into it, I want to make sure you're checking out covideo.com. Covideo is the way to get engaged with your clients. No more stale emails, no more canned emails. Let your personality come out. It is the way to engage with people today. If you're sending text emails, it's so old hat. You got to send video emails, so check that out. Also, make sure you're looking at Nudge. Nudge is like on fire now. Connect up with me. You can have our relationships. I've been on Nudge for years now. It is my way of prospecting. Every morning I get a prospecting email. It tells me exactly who I need to talk to, who's active, who's open, and what they care about. So let's get into the interview, and I'll sum it up at the end. Thanks for listening. Hey, Chad, welcome back.
Hey, great to be here.
Yeah, it's time to talk about demos. I mean, demos are a critical part of every sales process, and I'm sure you've sat through a handful of them in your career.
More than my fair share.
And I bet you've seen some good ones and quite a few bad ones. Let's contrast that maybe. Like what's your number one thing for making a demo great?
It's interesting. So you always got to be prepared. First off, and in this, you got to be prepared for it to go poorly, right? Every demo always has the chance of going sideways because it's technology. So one of the things to make sure that I've seen people do to make sure it's great is, you've got your demo down. You know what features you want to highlight that will solve their business problems, that'll go back to making sure they're addressing their business objectives. You've got all that down. You've practiced it. You've done the run through. But you're prepared in case the tech doesn't work, and you're not sitting there wasting somebody's time fumbling to try and figure out how to show them something that just, crap the bed. So that preparation part of it for me, and that ability to understand, either eventuality and be prepared for it, that to me is where I've seen most, sales reps and AEs or demo people really shine.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been the guy giving the demo, but that's kind of how I got my start in the career. I was kind of the engineer that they pulled out of the cubicle to to give the presentation in the demo, and asked to cut your ponytail, will you? And
Well, and it's amazing though, right? That's an awesome way to get started because you know going into it that technology can be a little bit skittish. I mean, especially today when things have to be connected or not connected, they've got to work in both modes. You never know what kind of presentation device you're going to be on inside of a customer setting. Some of them are, have the latest and greatest, nice flat screens with the HDMI plug-in, and you're ready to rock and roll. Others, you're still looking for a DVI connector to a projector that probably hasn't been dusted in 10 years, right? So all of that has to be taken into account, because if you get to a point where you have people in a room that need to know that this product is really what they're looking for, you need to make it shine. And in order to do that, you got to be prepared for any eventuality.
Yeah, and there was a lot of research done on like the best times to do this. And, I don't know what your experience has been, but I've never done one on Monday or Friday. And I try and do it like Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at either 10 in the morning, whatever local time that is for them, not me, or 2 in the afternoon.
Oh, what's the thought process behind that? I hadn't heard that research. Where's that? Tell me more about that. I'm curious.
Yeah, Gong did a blog post about it, because what they have, and theirs is mostly remote stuff, meaning that, where you go through Zoom or some kind of screen sharing app.
Yep.
They record it, analyze it, and then map it in Salesforce or whatever CRM to what deals close and how long they take to close. So they can correlate the effectiveness and the correlation of different things that happen during the call. And, certainly for me, anything before 10, people are rambling and rushing around within their office trying to get, right? They got to get coffee, toast their bagel, catch up on the game or, the TV last night, especially like Monday morning, forget it. Everyone's got meetings. They're talking about Curb Your Enthusiasm. It's like the focus is not on work. And in that 10 a.m. meeting is always a good 20 to 50% better than the 2 p.m. meeting. 2 p.m., you got to let people get back after lunch, catch up on their stuff, get reacquainted with their jobs, and then you can get down and do some work. But after like 3, and certainly nothing near 4. A lot of people like, we'll get you right at the end of the day, and it's like,
no.
Yeah, people are burnt. They're looking at
everybody
their
wants to go
watch.
home.
Yeah, they get a kid's soccer game or something to go to, and and Fridays, forget about it. And, you and I were chatting about travel, and one of my rules was never travel on Monday or Friday, because it's like amateur hour. Fridays, you got, the grandmas going to see the grandkids, and the security lines are always slow. People are like, what? We have to get x-rayed? All this stuff that they have no idea. They got their coffee in one hand and their phone in the other, and you're like, oh. And Mondays, forget about it, because everybody's, think that they're trying to get, the consultants are all trying to get on location, first thing in the morning, so they had some kind of weekend.
Oh, yeah. And I love when I've been unfortunate enough to have to do something with a client where I can't get out on a Friday night, and traveling Saturday morning from someplace, it's like a totally different world.
Isn't it?
Wait, I'm not supposed to be in TSA I don't have to take my shoes off. Well, no, my shoes might set it off. But now I want to talk to the TSA agent, and I'm sitting there going, okay, deep breaths. Like this should be seamless, people. Like the signs, read the signs, observation. Yeah. Travel I could go on. Obviously after this week I could go on with forever. That data though, that came from Gong, you said?
Yeah, Gong.io.
And I love those guys, put out some amazing data. The tool is awesome as hell. I've had conversations with their CEO before, but the data they put out, the blog, the content, absolutely amazing. I love that.
And it kind of inspired this episode, because, I don't talk enough about demos, and demos are something you have to talk with interactively with someone else, because I've been through them so many times that, I think that number one thing for me is to find something to engage them with. What is the thing that's going to change their life? If you think of like a test drive, there's one thing about a car that everybody wants. It might be the seat, it might be the power, it might be the look, it might be, T-tops or sunroof or convertible. I don't know. What's it for you?
I mean, well, I think you're onto something right there, right? You have to be able to, in a demo, remember first and foremost that people make emotional buying decisions, right? And so if you can tap into it, like if you're going to show me file open, file close, file save, or hey, just stop, because I don't care. So you have to have done your homework and have to have talked to and understand your audience first and foremost. And if you can show a demo in a way that brings to light how it's going to help them, how it's going to provide them value, solve a business problem, generate ROI for them, and you can start to show it in a way and deliver it in a passionate way. None of this monotone, hey, do this, like, no. They've got to be an event. You almost want the demo to be an event so you can tap into those emotions, because they're not going to buy it just because it has this long list of features. They're going to buy it because you helped them connect to it.
Yeah, and it's something that you really can't delegate, because a lot of times I've worked at companies where the person given the demo was in what they called a pool. Like, and you may have only worked with this person like one time before, and they don't really report to you, and you don't have enough time before, because I'd always try and sit down with them, have a cup of coffee, and say, okay, here's how I like to roll with the demo. And they go, no, I got my way of doing it. I go, I understand, but let me explain what they're looking for, what they care about. And I go, let's have a signal. Okay, when I start talking, you stop talking. Okay, when the customer starts talking, we both stop talking. Okay.
I love it.
And he got offended, and he went and talked to his manager, and his manager agreed with me, and he goes, that's brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Let's not make it complex.
Yeah.
Right? You're there to listen to the customer, so stop. And it's always, I mean, there's two ways to look at it, right? Depending on how complex the product or the solution is. There are some where I've been able to do the demos, but I've also sold things like, back in the day, we sold math libraries for 3D geometric modeling engines. We didn't even have a UX. It was all code and algorithms. And I'm the last dude that needed to be doing the demo. But if you have somebody, that AE, that product expert that can really roll through it, you have to dry run it. You have to go through it and practice it. You have to know the signs, the cues. Those are the most simple cues I've heard. Usually it's like, I always got probably too creative. It's like, all right, if I tap my pen twice, just shut up, because it's time to let the customer talk, right? But if you don't practice it and go through it, especially if there's two people involved, you run the risk of coming off flat. And then if it's a product that you're trying to tell them is simple and easy to use, that, one of the things I like to say is, look, I'm a sales guy, and even I can do this, right? So there's a credibility portion if the product is something that you are comfortable enough with as well. Either way, you still got to make sure that you come off flawless, passionate, and get out of the fact that you've probably given this demo 100 times, and you don't want to get into that monotone. If you can do that and stay passionate about it, those are the ones that I've seen go the best.
Yeah. I mean, I recently posted a video clip from Mad Men where they're pitching Kodak about.
I remember that clip.
Do you?
Yeah.
Because it was so convincing. Because the customer was telling them, I know this is hard. It's just a wheel. And for the audience, it's the carousel where you put in those little
slides.
The
little slides, yeah.
Yeah, and maybe your parents had them. I certainly remember them. And the slide would drop in front of the light and would project the image onto a screen. And that's how people had like home, not movies, but pictures. And people after a vacation would get the pictures back and have their friends over and show it. And Don Draper, who was pitching the idea, explained that what was the emotion?
He talked about it like a carousel.
Yeah, like a child.
Right? A child and the timelessness and the wonder.
Time travel and nostalgia. And it was like, and all of a sudden it was his life. It was him with his kids, and he went back to when his wife was pregnant. He went back to his wedding day, back to when he met her. And one of the people who worked for him started crying and had to leave the room.
Right. I have never done a demo where I've inspired somebody so much that they've actually cried. That would be great. But I mean,
I've
that's a
cried
perfect
given
example.
one, but
yeah, I've cried after. I've done my fair share of crying after, for sure.
That's it. And I remember probably the most dramatic product I sold was we had this magical capability called incremental compilation where we could basically cut the time it took to build a program from hours to seconds. And the first time you showed somebody to it, they go, wait a minute, you didn't do anything. I go, no, it's done. And I go, let me show you, I'll run it. Okay, now we'll change it. What variable do you want me to put in? I'll put in a setting, and that way I did it. And people would be like awestruck. And
Right.
all of a sudden, they now saw that they could take their workday and cut it into like 1/8 or 1/10. And then they said, well, Jesus, now we can have vacations and go home on the weekends.
I can actually use all that vacation time I have.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, they were able to articulate that to their manager. So, with every product, there is some magic thing. And I think people get too lost trying to train the customer during the demo as like a training class. Here's how you use it.
Well, and that's a really good point, right? The demo is not meant to train them on the product. It is meant to connect to them, right? To inspire them, especially if you're talking to, I don't know about you. For me, a lot of the demos we did were never with the ultimate buyer.
Right.
They might be there for like 2 seconds and go, oh, you're going to do a demo? All right, I have other things to do. So what we always try to do was, that person that you're demoing, that person that now has the technical validation or whatever they're being called, whatever their role is in the buying process, always wanted them to walk out of there with some type of personal connection to it, because then their passion came through when they were talking to the buyer or their boss or whatever.
And that's it. And what you want to do is try and elicit from their questions how well they're getting it. Because typically there's somebody in that demo that has that problem that you solve, and you've got to connect with them. And when they come back to you and go, well, wait a minute, let me see how that works again. And does it connect up with this? And does it do that? Then you've got the mojo.
Right.
I think the best test drive I've ever been on I bought the Z, and I'm sure the listeners are sick of hearing about this car, but of course I bought it in July, where the streets were nice and dry and there wasn't rain or snow or anything. Because it was horrendous in either rain or snow. The test drive, the guy took it out. He said, let me drive. I'll take you back into some back roads into Virginia, and these windy little roads that were barely, wide enough for 2 cars. And he skated this car and I was just like mesmerized as the passenger. And then he pulled it over. He goes, okay, your turn. And then, of course, I went like 1/10 the speed he did.
Right.
But the feeling, because he goes, you see how that feels? It's like, okay, instead of braking in that curve, accelerate into it. And then he took the T-top, the roof off, and put it in the trunk. And he goes, what kind of music do you like? He put on the music, and all of a sudden the connection, that transfer of ownership took place.
Yep. Without a doubt. And it's funny because when Camaro just redid the body styles, what was that, 4, 5, 6 years ago, I got one of the new Camaros, and same situation. It was a total emotional buy. I knew what I was doing. I walked into the dealership because my wife at the time, Jeep, needed service. So I was going down to pick her up or something. I walked in and they had this orange Camaro SS 8-cylinder in there that they had put a Hennessy conversion kit on, 675 horsepower. And I was like, I would like to take this for a test drive. They had to open up the big doors and get it out of the showroom. And we're out there, and it took all of, 2 seconds once I sat in the car for me to go, yeah, I'm taking this home. Now, much like you, it was the summer. You want to talk about not that thing. If it misted, if it dude, it could not go outside. It was all muscle, no brains. But it was that emotional connection, right? And it was him being able to tell me about the Hennessy conversion kit and connecting it to the things that I cared about that made that such a powerful experience. And that happens in B2B all the time. That's really what we're after.
That's it. And if you can figure that one thing out and demonstrate it to the client and have them get it, and don't worry about the rest, because doing 2 demos is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. Doing a customized demo is a good thing, not a bad thing. Because I think too many reps, and where most deals get stuck, is you have that great demo and it goes a little bit longer, which is one of the things Gong noticed is the best demos went a little bit longer. But the problem then is you run out of time and you don't get that critical next step scheduled, and all of a sudden momentum is lost.
Right. Right. So just out of curiosity, when in the sales process, because I just was actually discussing this with a client earlier this week, when in the sales process do you recommend people start to look at doing the demos? Are there certain things you want to see or recommend that people look for or have from the client before they're willing to invest the time and resources to do a demo?
Well, I think today people are trying to rush it. I think people are assuming just because they will take a meeting that they want to see a demo.
Yeah.
And, and unless you're the end user of the product, you're the direct user, the demo makes perfect sense to you, then it might make sense. But I think, today, because the person who's given the demo isn't getting the meeting, it's usually somebody else kind of gets the meeting, and then you kind of got to redo the discovery a little bit.
Right.
I think you first need to, reestate rapport. Kind of do where are you in this? Is it a priority? How do you do it today? How would you like to do it? What's the outcome you like to achieve? And then if you can keep the demo as a conversational piece, and I've got this one guy that's in our industry, he's got this product, and every time I talk to him, he opens up a window and starts giving me a demo. Now I've used his product for 3 years now. And, I literally have inspired most of the product direction for them because I'm a super user of it and I love the product. And he insists on giving the demo instead of talking to me. And it is just such a turnoff that,
right.
And I'm like, buddy, I know the demo is worth, let's talk about these things that are important. And then he'll say, oh, well, you can do that now. I go, no, you can't. And he goes, let me show you. And I go, no, that's not what I'm talking about.
Stay away from the product. Stay away from the product.
Let's talk like human beings. And I think too many reps use it as a crutch, like they use slides as a crutch. And if you can't have that solid interactive conversation about the industry, the problems that people face, the customer's role in the company for a good half hour, you're not qualified yet. You got to build up that knowledge base. And because those are the things that are really great salespeople are good at. The demo is kind of a rookie tool. It's kind of a crutch for a lot of people. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a great reason to get together. It's kind of like, hey, let's meet for cocktails. It's not the beer. You can have a beer anywhere, right? You want to get together to talk and reconnect.
Yeah, and without that understanding, without that context, if a salesperson doesn't bring that context to it, you're right. They have a tendency to use it as a crutch. I remember the first time I had a new AE that was going to go with me to do a demo, and we had dry runned it, but our practice was only, I think we got it done in 25, 27 minutes every time on average, right? But the meeting was for 60 minutes. And as we're driving up to the customer site, he goes, so I have a question for you. I was like, all right, sure, shoot. He's like, what are we going to talk about for the other 30 minutes? I'm like, what? He's like, no. We're only doing a demo for 27 minutes. He's like, even if I go long, it's 35. He's like, what are we going to do the other 25? I'm like, are you being serious right now? We have a whole list of things we want to talk about. And actually, we want to talk first, then do a little demo and talk at the end. And all of a sudden, you just saw the blood drain from his face. Like, well, wait a minute. You mean we're not going to have the demo to rely on? Like, I'm not going to have, oh, hey, let me show you this cool thing about the product. No. It's not about that. It's about them, what they need, what they think is valuable, and how we connect to that.
Yeah. And that's it. And I think if you can really start by showing how other people do it, like somebody they may know or respect or understand or even compete against. And it's like, okay, today you have 3 disparate systems. Okay, you'd like to have them all work together. So today, what do? You have to manually cobble them together. What if you could do this? This is how, IBM does it. This is how Oracle does it. And all of a sudden, this is how Microsoft does it. This is what it was like before. This is how we transitioned them. This was the outcome that they got. And you build that into a story and how it affects them. It's great. And you raised a real good point on the timing, because typically, even if they have extra time, the room that you're in typically expires right on the top of the hour, and they get the
Standing outside.
knocking, and all of a sudden, not only do you have to leave, you have to pack up and leave, and you haven't closed the meeting for a next step, which is the most valuable action item that can come out of this. Because if you don't have it, and I wrote about this in my book, because I had this VP come with me, and we'd be out in the parking lot. He was a fantastic rock star presenter, but he always went long. And he was like the Steve Jobs of the company. And then we'd be like literally being kicked out of the building. They're trying to go to lunch. We've gone over by a half an hour. And they're all like, "Oh, this is fantastic. Let's talk soon. Yeah, send me a proposal." And he's in the parking lot telling me how great it went. I go, "Yeah, but we don't have a next step." He goes, "Well, send a proposal." And I'm like, "To who? About? For what?"
There's so much more we need.
Right,
We
it's
didn't set the next hook.
It's like, oh, having that first great date. It's like all of a sudden you think you have a relationship, and it's like,
Yeah.
maybe you do, maybe you don't. And it's like that part, and people just assume because it went so good. And I've seen very few, demos, probably like 10% go bad, but 80% typically go, B plus.
Right.
But not that 80% don't close, right? Probably 20% of those close. Why? Because somebody doesn't know what to do next. No one
and you
teaches
see the
that.
reps, and you see the reps get so excited. I have watched sales reps. They'll do their practice, they'll do their prep, and they get in there and they start to see the reaction from the customer. Maybe they lean forward, maybe they're asking some questions, maybe they're starting to talk a little bit faster. They're giving you those cues that they're engaged and they're starting to get excited. And then the rep bleeds off of that and gets excited and forgets that what you have to do at the end is get that next step. So they walk out and they go, "That was great." And then you wait about 3.5 minutes and it dawns on them, "Crap, I don't have a next step."
Right. Yeah.
That was awesome. It might have been an A+ performance, but from a sales standpoint, you maybe are at a solid C. If you don't have a next step, and that's what the goal is, right? It's a lot of reps will get so focused on that demo and that one step, they lose that strategic view of the account and the sales process. And I understand why. I mean, it's awesome when you have a customer sitting across the table and they're excited and they're talking to you and they're, "Oh, think of all the things we can do." You want to, it's natural to get caught up in that. It takes a pro to actually remember you need to control that, throttle their emotions, and make sure you're ensuring that you have that next step or time to get it.
Yeah, because one of customers, or one of the jobs I had was a company called Chain Link Technology, and they call it the Chain Link effect. And it was kind of ironic that you would think of it as a chain link, where the demos always go great, but nobody ever buys the product. I go, that's a sales process mistake.
Yeah.
And the guy who ran sales used to sell, alarms door to door. And in that case, they either bought or they don't buy, period.
Right.
It's a lot like when you're on that lot, you either buy that Camaro or that Z or you don't.
Right.
And that next step, and you can't ask them what they want to do now. You can, but they don't know.
Right.
Because they'll say, "Oh, send me a proposal," but you're not the person who signs the proposal. So what's the point in sending you a proposal? You take me to meet the person who can sign for the proposal, or let's get the full sale completed, not just the technical, because this is really the technical sale.
Right.
You love the Camaro, but let's say you were 16, you can't afford the Camaro.
Right.
You're loaded, so you can afford it.
Yeah, it was an impulse buy for sure. And you're right, though. I mean, it is a component of a much larger process. And that technical sale, I work with a lot of sales reps where they're extremely technical. They want to talk about the tech. They love the tech and they geek out about the tech. And then when you have to explain to them that, okay, well, the person that is ultimately going to sign the contract, no offense, probably doesn't care. They probably don't care about the feature set. What they care about is the person that they trust telling them, yes, this product will do it. And that's where we're at when we're doing the demo. So making sure you're constantly keeping that in mind becomes a critical step.
Yeah, because when you do the on-site, the pattern was always consistent. The manager would come in the last 5 minutes, and he or she would look at the people who were the smartest and see how they were reacting to it. And they'd either get the nod, the smile, the thumbs up, or they would get the,
Let's keep looking.
yeah, let's keep looking. And plus, much like in Mad Men, that the people, your competitors, coming in 2 hours.
Right.
So you can
Exactly. They're right behind you. They're right behind you.
Hey, cool, Chad. This has been a lot of fun. Anything else about the demo before we drop?
Oh, no, I'm good, man. This has been great. Thank you.
Yeah, I love talking about demos and talking to somebody who feels passionate about. Chad's really a great guy. And let me sum up the blog post, because what Chris does is they break it down into like talk to listen ratios. And the demo is naturally the salespeople or people on the company side are going to talk a little bit more. But then they break it down into 4 acts. And what you want to do is kind of do it backwards. Start with how other people are using it. Start with how people are solving that problem today. Talk about the exact use cases. This is how you do it now. This is how you would do it here. This is the benefit. This is the time saving, the cost savings, whatever it is to make their life better. And to make it interactive, it's not a training class. It's not an instruction. It's not a feature function demonstration. It's a use. How are you going to use it? How is your life going to be different? Think of the test drives that we talked about, where, all of a sudden you let the other person drive. Maybe you don't do that with the product, but maybe you kind of elicit, like, how do you do it today? Let me show you how you could do it. Make sure you're prepared and really rehearse with the person, and getting somebody who's really good at a demo and having that mojo with that person. So check out Chris Orlov's blog post over at gong.io. Check out the demo for them. Also, they've got a YouTube channel with customer testimonials, and they're on fire, I'm telling you. Also, check out Pipedrive, and make sure you're connecting up with me on LinkedIn. I'm putting out some great stuff over there. I'm putting out like videos now on sales topics. So make sure you subscribe or connect with me so that you see those. And if you like them, rate them, subscribe them, and share them. I really appreciate you listening, and we'll see you next time. Make sure you're checking out the old episodes before I have to remove them. Download them so you can save them forever. They're all yours. And the B2B Revenue Leadership Show. I'm really focusing on how companies are crushing it today in sales and marketing. There's lots of good ideas. Even if you're just a rep, I don't need to learn anything else. You want to check that out. It's great content. Please keep the questions coming. Make sure you're sharing this with someone. Just tell somebody about the brutal truth. Just spread the word. And those who do, I really appreciate it. Thank you. We'll see you next time.